Hello, everyone. I see people are starting to join. Welcome to Shift Sessions. I'm Dalia. I'm going to be your host this week. I am so glad to be here with you, and I'm so glad to see all of you here too. Hello, everyone. Hello. So good to see you. While we're waiting for people to join, maybe now would be a great time to just take a pause, take a beat. It's midweek. Well, it's not really midweek. It's almost midweek. So it's a good time to check in, see how you're doing, just connecting with yourselves, doing maybe a quick scan of your body, seeing where you're holding any tension, any stress from the day, and maybe just letting all that go. And arriving into this amazing live because we have an incredible topic today. This is my favorite thing to talk about, and it's inner child healing. I think it's appropriately named that these sessions are called shift sessions because anytime I've done inner child healing work, it has shifted people in such a profound way. I've been in the mental health world for over 10 years, and I've studied so many different modalities, and I've done a lot of different types of work, but I've yet to see anything be as impactful and like amazing as inner child healing in the sense of creating a shift. So we're going to talk today about what an inner child is, how it's formed, how to know that your inner child is wounded. And I'm going to share with you an incredible framework that is rooted in mindfulness that's going to help you begin to establish a connection and begin to heal your inner child. So are we ready? Can I get a hell yeah if we're ready? I'm actually going to wait for that hell yeah. I'm not even moving on until I see that hell yeah. Okay, I'm seeing hearts. I'll take the hearts. I will take the hearts. So I wanted to first start by asking you some questions, okay? I want you to drop a heart or just do the heart if any of the following sentences sound like you, okay? So the first one. Have you ever felt anxious when you texted someone and didn't hear back right away? Or have you ever felt the pressure to try to make everyone happy and say yes to everything, even when you were running on empty? Sound familiar? Does that sound like you? Yes. Or maybe you overreacted to something small and you thought, well, where did that come from? Those are all signs that you're operating from an inner child. And the reason why I wanted to start by asking these questions is I wanted you to see for yourself all the hearts that were going to go up on the screen. And I want you to internalize just how human those things are. I know that mental health in general can feel very isolating in the sense that we feel like we're the only ones who think that way, who feel that way. And so I think it's very humanizing when we realize we are not the only ones. And so it's a very common experience. And what's probably happening in those moments is that your inner child or the emotional part of your subconscious mind is stepping in to protect you. So let's get started. Let's start with the question of what is an inner child? So I want you to think of your inner child as the part of your subconscious mind that holds all your emotional memories and imprints and experiences and associations from your childhood. Okay, so, and I want to say this one thing, it's not just about what you experience directly. An inner child can be formed also from what it witnessed, from the environment that it grew up in. So let's talk a little bit about how that inner child is formed. So in a nutshell, anytime your basic needs were not met, a part of your psyche kind of gets stunted or stops growing, or it gets stuck in that age. Or anytime that you experienced something negative or witnessed something negative, that also, a part of your psyche gets stuck in that age. So let's add just a layer of psychoeducation here. So from the age of 0 to 7, our brains are mostly operating in a theta brainwave. Now, a theta brainwave is that dreamy, if you caught my husband's last week's session on hypnosis, you know that hypnosis is that theta brainwave. It's a very absorbent state. So think about that. For the first 7 years of your life, you were in that absorbent state. So your mind is like a sponge and you're operating purely from subconscious because your conscious mind develops a bit later on. And that's why as kids, it was so easy to believe in Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny because we didn't have a conscious mind that thought, maybe it's not so realistic that this dude is going to be going around the world dropping presents all in one night, right? So that knowledge, knowing that you're operating from that theta brainwave is paramount to understanding how your subconscious programming begins, okay? So let me paint a picture. I think the best way is to kind of give examples. So let's say that you saw mom and dad fighting all the time, right? Your nervous system then may have learned that love is chaos or love equals pain. And so you're either chasing that chaos or you're shutting down, right? Or maybe you notice that dad was always at work and he always working, making money. And so maybe you've internalized this program that money takes people away and you grow up resenting money. So I think it's important to draw a distinction between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind because I have so many clients who tell me, well, as an adult, I believe that I want love. I'm ready for love. I'm ready for that relationship. And it's like, yeah, I believe that your conscious mind that developed later, that 12% of your brain wants love. But if your subconscious mind, if that 88% has that program that love is pain, then between the subconscious and the subconscious is always going to win. And that is why it's so important to go backwards because the past does inform the present. And a lot of the experiences that happen to us as children shape our perception, shape our narratives, shape how we turn out as an adult. So to give a few more examples, let's say that when you were a kid, you were praised only for your achievements. So you may have learned that my worth equals performance. And so as an adult, you're always working and burnt out and you still feel like it's not enough. Or let's say, and this is so common, I see this happening all the time, if your emotions were dismissed as a child. So let's say that you were crying and one of your parents were like, stop crying, you're too sensitive. That kind of emotional invalidation creates a program in that child that feeling is dangerous or emotions are unsafe. Fast forward to them as adults who have dysfunctional relationships with their emotions. So that's kind of how it works. So all of these subconscious programs are running the show. And I like to tell my clients this metaphor. Think of it this way. You're in a movie theater, you're sitting on the seats, the screen in front of you, that's your life. In the projector room, that projector, that's your subconscious. And so whatever is in terms of programming in your subconscious, that's what's going to be reflected and manifested in your life. And so I know a lot of people who struggle with the people pleasing, with the perfectionism, with the procrastination, with all these things. And those patterns, I call them the coping skills, they may seem maladaptive now, but those coping skills are how you learn to survive as a child. All right. So for example, if you did grow up in an emotionally tumultuous environment, maybe you learned to find comfort in food. And so as an adult, maybe you're struggling with the binge eating and stuff, and it seems maladaptive now, and you maybe judge yourself now, but we don't look back at, well, where did this start? And when did I learn that that was the way to cope? And when you can recognize that that was just you trying to protect yourself, I think that awareness in and of itself releases the hold of judgment and the hold of shame, and maybe even invites a little more compassion and understanding. Because not to give the end of this away, but the way out is through compassion. And I think that's ironically something that most adults struggle with. And I think one of the most beautiful things to come out of inner child healing is when you realize that a lot of the ways in which you operate is coming from a place of self-preservation, because that's just how that child knew how to survive. It can't not crack you open. You can't not feel compassion to that child that was once suffering and learn to protect itself this way. So I know that was a lot. I'll do a quick summary just to make sure that the main takeaway here is we understand it. So again, first 7 years of your life, your pure subconscious mind. Your mind is a sponge that is absorbing everything. So that's where your software begins to be programmed. And all of that software ends up being what you manifest as an adult. So again, as an adult, you may think, I want love, I want money, I want all these things, and consciously you do. But if subconsciously you have a program that's blocking that, it won't really manifest in your reality. But the good news is that if the past informs the present, and even though we maybe can't go back in time and change the past, there are things that we can do to change the way that you relate to the past. And that's a lot of NLP talk that I'm going to get into a little bit later. But first, I want to supplement all of that psychoeducation, because how could we be talking about inner child healing if we don't also talk about attachment theory? Anyone here familiar with attachment theory? Not familiar? I'm going to talk about it anyway. So when a caregiver meets a child's needs consistently, that child learns the world is safe, I matter, my needs get met. That's secure attachment. But when love feels conditional or it feels inconsistent, then that child might learn that connection equals danger or unpredictability, hence avoidant attachment or anxious attachment, right? So as adults, we're replaying the same emotional story. We are chasing, we're avoiding, we are fixing, because that's what our nervous system recognizes as familiar. And fun fact, by the way, just so you know, our romantic relationships as adults are very, very influenced by our childhood relationships. That's like the core of the attachment theory stuff. And it's so, I find it very interesting and fascinating, because wow, your brain is so creative. Like, it's trying to heal the past by projecting the things that happened in the past onto your romantic relationships. Almost like your brain is giving you another opportunity to solve it, resolve it, fix it. This time, maybe it's going to be different. This time, maybe you'll get your needs met. But unfortunately, for most adults, one of the biggest issues that we faced is, A, we don't even know what we need. And B, even if we did know what we needed, we don't know how to communicate our needs or go about getting our needs met. And I see this literally with all my couples there, like all the couples I work with in couples therapy. It's like, oh, but he should have known. Why should I have told him? He should have known that I needed a 5-course dinner and a bubble bath waiting for me after a long day of work. And it's like, yeah, that's a romantic notion, but it's not on him to be a mind reader. Okay. So understanding yourself, understanding your patterns, understanding your past, understanding your needs, all of these feed into reparenting. Okay, reparenting is the modality to begin healing your inner child. But first, I kind of wanted to touch upon some of the signs, some of the ways or common, warning signs that your inner child might be running the show. So I'm going to list some things, and I want you to really take a second and think, does this sound like you? Because again, it is one of those things where it is more common than you think. Okay. So give me a heart, give me something to let me know if you resonate with this or not. So do you ever feel like people pleasing because you're afraid of rejection? So you just say yes to everything. Does that sound like you? Yep, I'm seeing some hearts. All right, do you ever overthink and replay interactions in your mind over and over and over? Like yep, seeing that's common too. Or maybe you shut down or you freeze during conflict or whenever you're arguing with your partner or whatever. Yep, you shut down, or you feel like you want to run away. You get really anxious. Yeah, at times, right? Okay, or you need to control everything because unpredictability feels threatening. That's another one. Or maybe you feel guilty when you rest, or you feel guilty when you focus on yourself. And one more, maybe you find yourself drawn to emotionally unavailable people. So those are all kind of like signs that indicate that you have a wounded inner child. And I feel like I would be remiss if I'm talking about inner child healing and I don't nod a little bit towards this concept of triggers, right? So who knows what a trigger means? Because I feel like trigger is a word that gets thrown out a lot. We say it all the time. I'm so triggered. He triggered me. She triggered me. But what does it mean? What is a trigger? I'd love to see some theories. If you guys can like maybe share what you think, how you would define a trigger. No takers? Trigger? Okay, I'm gonna give it to you. A trigger is something that causes effect. Yeah. Triggers are moments of involuntary reaction. Thank you. Those are all great responses. Something that creates a reaction in you. Yes. Something that hits a nerve. You're right. All of those answers are right. But the thing with trigger is that it's an overreaction to something that it's an overreaction. I mean, it's like my partner is going away on a business trip and I'm having a meltdown because it feels like I'm never going to see them again. The trigger is never about what is happening right now. That's the secret sauce. Trigger isn't about what's happening right now. Triggers are about what happened back then and how what's happening right now is reminding you of what happened back then. It's just so fascinating the way that your brain organizes information. Your brain thrives on doing one thing really well, and that is predicting. It's a predicting machine. It wants to predict what's going to happen. It needs to know what's going to happen. That's why we all struggle with this, need to control. And so if you think of it that way, again, coming back to your earlier childhood experiences, your brain is kind of like creating these tabs or these schemas. So like this one thing happened and now your brain is going to file everything adjacent to that under that thing, even if it doesn't really perfectly fit, right? And so that's why your brain is always trying to make sense of like, what is the way to react here? And all it knows what to go off of is how you reacted when you were a child. And how do most children react when they don't get their needs met or don't know how to communicate their needs? They throw a tantrum. Another T word. So maybe triggers are like the adult tantrum. I just came up with that, by the way, right now. Triggers are the adult tantrums. I like that. And it is because a child part of you has taken over and is reacting. Okay? So all of this is to say why it's so important to look at the past, because it really does inform the present. Maybe you're now asking, okay, well, what do I do with this? How do I heal? Now, this is the process of reparenting. Reparenting basically means becoming or embodying the adult that you needed. And I want to make one thing clear here. This is not about blaming the parents. Parents, bless them, they did the best they could with the resources they had. though. It's not about a blame game. You may not be able to go back and change things, and you may not have been the one to have created that damage in the first place, but it is your responsibility to begin to reparent yourself, to begin to ask yourself the question, or maybe even taking inventory of, what did I need back then? What would have been the ideal parent? And then how can I start showing up for myself today as that ideal parent, as that idealized parent that I never had? So what does that look like? It looks like giving yourself validation, giving yourself safety, giving yourself consistency, the things that you were missing before. It looks like self-soothing instead of self-criticizing. It's every time you allow an emotion to be there and to process that emotion without suppressing it or repressing it. It's reprogramming your nervous system to feel safe with emotions, to feel safe with getting your needs met, all of these things. So think of it, so that's the easiest way to think of it. Reparenting means I'm going to be the one now to meet my own needs. I want to say though, like when it comes to inner child healing, it is about establishing a relationship. Just like anything, you can't go to the child and, hey, what's wrong with you? Come on, let's fix it. That's not the way to relate to a child. You really have to talk to yourself and have that relationship with yourself as if you are dealing with a wounded and scared child. Okay? So, and the beauty of reparenting is that it's something that you can do daily. It's something that you can do daily. And I want to make one caveat here. I know that when we talk about inner child healing, it does sound very much like doom and gloom, and it sounds like all the things that went wrong in my childhood and all the bad things and all the negative things, but it's not just that. The beauty of connecting with your inner child is that it also reconnects you with all the positive things, all the amazing qualities and characteristics of being a child. The curiosity, the playfulness, the wanting to explore, the being uninhibited, all of these things, creativity, like all of those amazing qualities of being, like having fun, joy. So I tell my clients all the time, you don't only heal by sitting with the pain or sitting with the good. You can also heal through joy. You can heal through play. You can heal by asking yourself, what were the things that I liked to do when I was a kid? What was my idea of fun when I was young? And how can I start incorporating more of those things into my life today? And coming back to this concept of reparenting and establishing a relationship, trust takes time, and it's something that needs to be built. And so when it comes to reparenting, what that looks like for me is a check-in process. I check in daily, I do a body scan, and I try to sense for where an inner child might be present. And I connect to that inner child with an open, compassionate, loving presence. And, I ask it, what do you need today? Why do I keep calling it an it? I'm sorry, inner child. You're a her, you're a she. Her pronouns are she, her. And so my inner child, and sometimes it can be like really, like I just want embodied presence. I just want you to spend time with me. Like give me that connection. And so I'll just spend some time there. Or it could be something like, I want to go for ice cream. I'm feeling ice cream today. And so taking my inner child to enjoy an ice cream. And while I'm having that ice cream, like really inviting that inner child to enjoy this with me. It's a relationship. Like all things really, like healing in general is about how do I improve my relationship with myself. So, having said that, I want to share with you my framework, my mindfulness framework for beginning to heal and connect with your inner child. And this one's beautiful and it's so easy to remember because it's an acronym. And so it's an acronym that has 4 steps, and I'm going to take you through all of those 4 steps. So whenever you're thinking inner child, remember this one word, RAIN, RAIN, rain. Like when it rains, it pours. Okay? So that's the framework. And then RAIN, each letter stands for a step. I'm going to tell you all of them, and then I'm going to go through each one. So recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. Rain. Now I'm going to break it down by step, starting with recognize. What do I mean by recognize? Recognize means acknowledging, noticing when a trigger is present, when an inner child is present, when a big emotion is present. When there's emotions, big emotions present, the first thing we do is recognize. And I always like to add in parentheses here, name those emotions. So if you feel like an emotion is coming up, what is it? Name it and expand your emotional vocabulary outside of the 6 basic emotions. I'm not just talking the surprise, disgust, joy, sadness, or whatever. I'm talking really get eloquent. Pro tip for you. I have the feelings wheel as a screensaver on my phone, as a background on my phone. And so whenever I'm checking the time or whatever, I see the feelings wheel. And it's like a reminder to myself to, what am I feeling right now? What word really describes how I'm feeling? The reason why this is so important is because science and research has proven that when you name an emotion, it reduces its emotional intensity. So naming an emotion can already be a good first step to reduce the trigger, to reduce the emotionality of that trigger. So name it to tame it. Remember that. So that was R, recognizing when there is a trigger, recognizing when there is a big emotional response, recognizing when those emotions are there, and naming it. Now we come to the A, allow or accept your emotions. Listen, this may sound easy. Oh yeah, allow my emotion. I guarantee you this is the step that most of my clients struggle with. Because it's counterintuitive. It sounds counterintuitive to allow an emotion to be there, especially when your brain is wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Naturally, when we're feeling negative emotions, not that I believe that there are anything called negative emotions, but for the sake of this conversation, let's say there is. When you're feeling something bad, when you're not feeling good, the brain goes into, well, how do I fix it? How do I change it? This is not fun. I don't want to feel this way. So I judge it, I repress it, I suppress it, I push it away. And we all know emotions don't go nowhere. You think you're repressing it, but it's gonna come back and bite you in the bum one time. So allowance means just let that emotion be there. Just let it be there. You don't need to do anything for it. You don't need to change it. You don't need to run away from it. You don't need to dismiss it. And here's the thing, okay? When you allow an emotion to be there, guess what happens? It shifts. It shifts. The only thing keeping you stuck in emotions is your resistance. So I'm going to tell you an amazing fact. Actually, no, I'm going to ask you a question. How long do you think an emotion lasts? Just throw a number. How long do you think an emotion lasts? Any number. Any takers? How long does an emotion last? I love asking this question because people always get surprised. 5 minutes? Yeah, people usually 10 minutes. It depends on the situation, moment to moment. Actually, science has now shown that emotions last, are you ready for this? I'm going to blow your mind. 90 seconds. 90 seconds. That's 1.5 minutes. So if we're looking at the biological, physiological, hormonal, chemical reaction that takes place in your body, 90 seconds. But you may be asking, Dalia, come on now. We all know that I feel my emotions for way longer than that. I'll tell you why. That's because you're judging it, resisting it, trying to fix it. And that's why I say that allow as a step is the hardest one, because it feels counterintuitive. It is about sitting with that discomfort, and it's about training yourself that this discomfort will not kill you. And that when you let an emotion be there, let it do its thing, and you just be a witness, it will shift. It will shift, I promise. Okay, so now we're going to the third step, which is investigate. And this is where the work happens. So with this phase of investigate, I like to ask 3 questions. The first question in investigate is, where in my body am I feeling this? So a lot of times maybe we're feeling sadness in our chest, anxiety in our stomach. So learning to also understand where your emotions are living in your body is a good step for like self-awareness. And most of the time, where you're feeling those emotions in your body is where your inner child is residing. I know it's like fun to think of it as like it's just in your brain, but it's also in your body. And that's why emotions are called feelings for a reason, because we feel them physically. And your organs and your body, it's a wealth and reservoir of incredible insight and information. However, we spend most of our lives being in our heads. We live in our minds. We're always trying to think and strategize and plan and control and fix, blah, and we're never in our bodies. And yet our bodies have so much insight. And that's what our emotions are. Our emotions are teachers. They're feedback mechanisms, right? So when I investigate, the first question is, where in my body do I feel it? If this is the only thing you can answer, that's fine. Of these 3 questions, you don't need to answer all of them. They're just a guide so to help you with the investigation. The second question to ask, and by the way, I should have said this in the beginning, and I really want to make this a point. This RAIN framework is good for emotions and like emotions that you can, but it is not for trauma. I need to make that clear. Do not attempt to do RAIN on trauma, and don't do it by yourself. Okay, with trauma work, please always seek the help of a professional or the assistance of a professional, because we don't want your dysregulation to cause a healing crisis. So just that's an FYI. RAIN is for heavy emotions, for little triggers, but not big trauma. So coming back to that second question of investigate. The second question is, when was the first time I felt this way? So you're now going to the root, right? Why I like this question and why I like this framework is because unlike some other healing modalities, I'm not putting a band-aid over the wound. I'm going to the root source, and I'm going to, when did this program begin? When did I believe, or when did I create this association that love is pain? When did I start believing that money is bad or it will tear my family apart? At what point did I learn that I had to say yes and make people happy at the expense of myself? So getting to the I is so to the when was the first time, the root cause is an important question. Now, this may look like just a number comes up for you, or maybe you see a child come up for you, because I know a lot of people, they'll say like, I don't remember and I can't remember. That's okay. A lot of times if your brain is not presenting a memory, there's a good reason for that. So just trust whatever does come up for you. And if nothing comes up for you, go back to question number 1. That's okay. Where in my body do I feel it? And just stay there. Just stay there. And you can ask the question number 3. Question number 3, arguably the most important question. What did I need? What is the unmet need? What was the unmet need? That's $1 million question. Because remember, back to the definition of what is an inner child. An inner child is a series of unmet needs. It's the part of your brain or the part of your psyche that gets stuck in the age when your needs were not met. And so that's why it's important in the investigation phase to understand, well, what did I need? Because the third the fourth step of rain, which is N, nurture, that's when I am meeting my needs. That's where the reparenting comes in. So that's when the adult that I am today travels back in time in my imagination and meets that child's needs. Whether it looks like visualizing myself holding that child, giving her emotional validation, telling her she's safe, she's loved, she's accepted, her feelings are valid, whatever it is that, you know, your inner child needed. How do you, as the adult today, go back and meet that need? And when we talk about needs, you know, the basic needs of a child: safety, love, acceptance, being seen, being heard. You would be so surprised just by giving your inner child that attention, how much that may shift for them. So that is rain, and that is the N is where the nurturing and the reparenting really comes in. So just to repeat those 4 steps again: recognize, know when there's a trigger, know when there's an emotion, name your emotion, name it to tame it. Recognize. Allow that emotion to be there. If you want, put a timer for 90 seconds and really just allow yourself to feel it and breathe through it. Here's a fun little, not like a pro tip. If your feelings do feel big and overwhelming, try breathing them out into the room to create more space. And if breathing them out into the room doesn't help, a breathing exercise that does is called circular breath. So it's inhaling and exhaling with no pausing in between. So it's like one big circle that helps the emotional processing. So that's for A. For 90 seconds, that's what you're going to do. And then I investigate. So the 3 questions: where in my body do I feel it? When was the first time? And what did I need? Really, when was the first time optional? I would focus on where in your body and what did you need. If you can get those 2 answers, you're good. And then N, nurture your needs. Meet your needs. Meet your needs. And the kind of relationship that you develop with yourself when you do that, and when you get good at doing that, it's mind-blowing. It is incredible. It's the thing that's going to carry you through life. And yeah, so I mean, I'm conscious of time. I know that I've been talking a lot because I love this subject and I am so passionate about it. I do want to say that this is like a little snippet of a wider course that I have on my website, daliahalabi.com. I have an inner child healing workshop, and I do one-on-one sessions and group work as well on this topic. So if you are interested to learn more, please reach out to me. I will blab your ear off anytime. But right now, I want to open it up for questions. Please hit me with any question that you have. I'm going to wait a little bit and then, yeah, see if I can answer your questions. Oh, thank you for dropping that in the chat. Yep, it's daliahalabi.com. And then my Instagram, you know my Instagram, daliahalabi88. So any questions? Inner child healing, reparenting, how an inner child is formed, any of the stuff we talked about. Do you find that this work helps the more you do it over time? This is life work, okay? I want to make it clear that there's never going to be a point where you are fully healed. The goal is not to be fully healed. The goal is to have the tools or the skills to be able to meet your needs and relate to that child. And that's going to be a forever thing. So yes, the more you do this work, the easier it is to connect to your inner child. The more you do this, the more proficient you become at recognizing when an inner child is acting out, and you get good at like meeting your own needs and stuff. So yes, the more you do it, the better your relationship with your inner child becomes. Is it ever too late in life to start this work? Never too late. It's never, ever, ever too late. You know, this is like, I have a bit like, you know, physics. Time is an illusion. And some science and quantum physics have found that past, present, and future, it's happening all the time. So who's to say that no matter how old you are, going back and connecting to that child, you're not actually going back in time and healing something in you. And this is why I say like the inner child work is the biggest shift I've seen in clients is because it gets to the root, it meets the need, and it creates the understanding that I don't need, like, I have everything I need to be able to heal and help myself in that way. And this is not to say that this is an invitation to become like super hyper independent, where it's like, I don't need nobody. Like, that's not the point. We are social animals. We need humans. And so it's about being interdependent, not about being hyper dependent. But the better you get at acknowledging and meeting your needs, the better you're going to get at communicating those needs to others. So, sorry, that was like a tangent to your question, but no, it's never too late to start this work. Any other questions? I mean, if you do have questions, you can also always reach out to Shift or to me, and I'm sure we'll both be happy to give you some resources and answers. Is this something that should happen in all types of therapy? Well, you know, I don't like the word should. That should is shaming. And no, I don't know. I think every modality has its pros and cons. Every modality has its beauty, and there's a time and place for everything. You know, yes, sometimes we want to get to the root and heal the child, but other times having like the tool-based or the skill-based, evidence-based modalities is probably better suited and better, you know, used. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, I guess, is to answer your question. And all modalities can work together or supplement each other to create lasting change. But all of those are great questions. So thank you all for sharing. And thanks again for joining this week's shift. I'm so grateful for you guys, for the shift, for creating the series, because it is an incredible act of community to be offering these lives and these resources and bringing together all these therapists and healers to make this kind of content accessible and make mental health accessible to people. So I'm grateful to you, Shift, and I'm grateful to you all who joined. And on that note, I'm excited to also tell you that next week, Shift is going to feature their very first ever international Shift session. So we're going to be hosted by Sky, a 0-point healer and consciousness guide who will be joining us live from Portugal next week. Cannot wait to see that. Thank you guys again for joining, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again.